Welcome to Future Role Model, a podcast that praises the unconventional and redefines what it means to be a role model. And my role model of the day today here with me in the studio is Jennifer Sterger.
You're setting your standards real low today.
And that's the whole point, guys, is, we like to praise the fact that we are sucky role models plenty of times. And we're going to delve into some of those stories. Jen, yes. What have you been up to lately?
Oh, everything and anything. So much writing, so much traveling, telling jokes again for the first time in like a year. Other than like a few select shows here and there. It's been interesting getting back in the swing of things, but yeah. It's amazing like how much the scene changes when you're gone for like a year.
Yeah, it's really weird when you take any sort of hiatus. Jen and I were just talking about this backstage, but sometimes you just hit these like pockets where you are
feel
creatively
uninspired.
Yes.
You don't feel funny. You feel kind of like lost in your own story, and you're like, what is my story now? And like, what do I want to share with people and what don't I want to share with people?
Right.
And, I think getting married this past year, like definitely changed my perspective on some of my older material. And I was like,
oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's just not relevant to me anymore.
Well, there's a whole different, because I still have people that will message me and be like, oh, I looked you up on YouTube. And I'm like, I haven't put anything on YouTube for over 6 years. Like whatever you're seeing is so old.
You're like, I am so sorry.
And I'm still trying to like sweep through YouTube and find where the fuck these things are hiding. Cause I'm like, I don't want people, because it's, you change so much.
Don't know.
I
had someone post video of me at an open mic.
Yes.
And that's like the most mortifying is when you're like, those jokes weren't even like fleshed out jokes. They were me throwing shit against a wall. We can say that, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. We can swear.
We can cuss? Okay.
Yeah.
That's just me throwing shit against a wall and just seeing, does any of this stick?
Absolutely.
Does any of it stick in a room full of comics who are just as dead inside as I am? You know what I mean? And if it does, and it's probably not going to work in a real room because people will be like, that's too raw.
Yeah, exactly. I had this video. This was from like a night that I quote unquote headlined. This is before, when you're like a newer comic-ish, and by new comic, I mean anytime in your first 5 years.
Yeah.
But when you start getting like headlining gigs, but it's just like one random night. And I had one that was offered to me in Vancouver. I was actually featuring for a weekend, but before the feature weekend started, they were like, do you want to headline Thursday night? And I was like, yeah. And the headliner spot was only 25 minutes. It was not that
long. It wasn't like a 45
It wasn't actually a headliner spot. So technically I was just featuring, but with a headline, I was last. You know what I mean? So I was doing like 25 minutes. I maybe had 20 minutes of actual like material.
Can I do 10 minutes of crowd work?
Yeah, exactly. And this was probably my third year into stand up. And so, this was 5 years ago. And the Vancouver club put it on some site that the sound guy started, and he disappeared. He had like a mental breakdown and like left the comedy world, and nobody can find him. So I have this like really old set floating around that's from Vancouver, like really fucking old and stuff that I hate.
You're like, listen, I know you're having a moment, but take that shit down.
Me and the other guy that ran the club at the time, both of us have a setup from that night, and we're like, how do we get rid of this? Like calling YouTube and being like, please get rid of this for us, because people still find that shit.
Yeah.
I think the YouTube thing is funny because I just don't go down YouTube holes at all. Maybe I'm too old for it.
I don't go down YouTube holes, but like Instagram, I think
Instagram's
YouTube
easy.
It's shorter attention spans, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in the mindset of YouTube videos, anything that's longer than a minute and you can't post it on Instagram, I tune out.
No, exactly.
So I'll get trapped in like the internet wormhole and stuff like that. But I just thought it was so funny. And you're like, when you hit me up and you said, well, we're going to do this podcast about role models. And I was like, why do you want me on? I feel like I'm one of the biggest what not to do stories.
That's exactly what this is for. That's exactly why I started this podcast. Good. Yeah, because it's like, I had always thought that I was an unideal role model just because I was like, well, I just do what I want, and I just turn that into a career, and I'm trying. And then I had recently a couple people like come up to me and be like, you're a really great role model because you just do whatever you want and you made that a career. And I was like, I never really thought about that. That kind of being shitty at life makes you good at life too.
Is it because we're just so like if we fail, we fail. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But we aren't going to like sit there and wonder whether or not we missed out on something because we did it.
That's exactly it.
You know?
I think it's just being able to embrace the fact that we're human and we suck sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Well, more often than not.
Exactly. What made you want to take a breather from stand-up for a little bit? What was it specifically? Was it wedding planning and kind of hitting that throw of like preparing for the wedding?
Let's be real. Wedding planning is a job that you don't get paid for, and you're planning a party for other people. Like, it sucks. I looked back at my wedding and I'm like, I hate everything about it. And because it was just like, I planned so much. And then the day of, everything you planned is going to go out the window. Yeah. So just be prepared for that.
It's so expensive.
It's such an expensive mistake. Not getting married, but just all of the things that could potentially go wrong on your big day will go wrong. Yeah. You know? So like that was a really big project, like I said, that I wasn't getting paid for. And it took a lot of time because, you know, I'm a control freak and like very type A. And like I wanted everything to be perfect. And I think the day that I'm willing to relinquish that control over my life is the day I'll actually be happy. But yeah, like the wedding planning thing. And then just, I don't know. I kind of maybe felt like I went through like a little identity crisis where like my material that I was doing on stage didn't feel authentic to me anymore. And if it doesn't feel authentic to me, I'm like,
you can't do it.
You can't. Well, it's just like, how can I sit up here and act like I think this is funny when like I'm so bored with it? You know? And I know there's some comedians that like go out and they're like, I never do the same set twice. And I'm just like, how do you call that like a set? Like, you'll never know if you're actually doing funny things or if you're just, you know, you just had great luck one night, you know, or the crowd was really drunk. You'll never like, that's not stand up to me. That's improv.
Right. Exactly.
And whenever I watch improv, I'm like, you know what would make this great? If we sat down and wrote it first.
Yeah. No, I mean, exactly. And that in lies, like I was talking with one of my friends about this the other day. One of my closest girlfriends, Roxy, she's a Muay Thai coach and owns a gym that I go to. And like we became
badass. We
became super homies, and she's my girl. And she's been coming with me to a lot of different shows lately because she just loves stand-up. So she came with me to this one show in Van Nuys where like 15 people were there. And then she came with me when I was featuring at the Improv in Brea, and there was like 400 people there. And then she came with me to the Laugh Factory when that was full. And she saw like the progression of like a set and things that I cut out, and then saw how it manifested in front of a crowd of 400 people, and then saw how it came out polished at the Laugh Factory. And she was like, that was so cool to watch you in like a 2-month process of like crafting those jokes. And I was like, thank you for noticing that, because it's just, I don't understand how some people, like some shows are good shows to just throw some shit to the wall, like you said.
400 people is not the time to do that.
But that's not when you do that. No. And, you know, Laugh Factory on a crowded ass night, that's not the night you do that. You know, you go to New York, you're playing Gotham, that's not the fucking night you do that. You take
I learned that
shit.
The hard way.
I did too once. I played Gotham like 3 years ago. I was
like, fuck it, it's New York, it's edgy. And then I was killing it for like my first 4 or 5 minutes, and then it was just downhill from there because I said the one wrong thing and I couldn't get the crowd back fast enough.
Oh, that sucks. That's so hard.
Like they were giving me chuckles and stuff, but by the end of the day, I was just like, where's the nearest bridge?
Well, like the last time I played at Comedy Juice in Gotham, I went up after... Oh my God, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. He was on SNL for a long time. I'll think of it. Anyway, not like he's not notoriously a stand-up, but mostly like a sketch comic person. But he went up and did a set, and everybody loves him because it's New York and it's SNL. Yeah. And then I had to follow him, and I tried to do something anecdotal, like from being in New York that week, and it fell completely flat.
They're like, where are the jokes?
Yeah, and then I had to spend the next 2 minutes recovering, and then I ended like strong. But like, you just can't fucking do that. No. You just can't. Not after somebody big. Not in clubs like Gotham,
where you're like, I'm just gonna ride the energy of the last guy. No, you're fucking not. You're gonna stay on your shit.
Exactly.
You're not going to stray. Yeah. But so I just felt like I needed to take time for myself. I think I just started questioning myself and questioning whether or not my material represented like who I really was. And I still feel like I'm still finding like my voice. Yeah. And like what's going to play the best with me, you know, on a stage. because I play really well to like smaller, fun rooms. Like I miss Meltdown. I miss Meltdown so much. Because it was that quirky little nerd space where like me being awkward really played.
Yes.
Whereas when you're on a stage, like you said, at Brea Improv, like that can go either way some nights. You just don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because it's not as much of an industry crowd as up here.
Oh, totally. It's removed. It's basically like Brea is like the Midwest of California.
It's a road show.
100%. And they really love their city. They're like, oh my God, Brea is amazing.
But like I said, back to the whole role model thing though, I literally was going, what could I possibly talk about that would make me a good role model? Because I'm like, my feet are still black from not wearing shoes and running around my building. Like, you know what I mean?
Last night?
Yeah. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I'm still Southern at heart, so I still just do dumb hick things every once in a while. But
that's what's inside of my body, too. Or the whole Wisconsin growing up.
Or like the East Coast vibe where, like, I just say things and then I realize that I've offended half the people in the room, like, not by choice, but it just happens. You know? It
does. Well, that's part of being human.
And authentic.
Exactly.
And that's what we were talking about, whereas it's just like it comes down to being ourselves unapologetically, you know?
Well, there's been plenty of times I've said something in a room where I'm like, fuck, these people they're not on the same page as me.
That didn't play.
And then you just have to kind of call yourself out and be like, well, I guess you guys aren't, I guess you guys don't vote the same way I do, or like just kind of backtrack whatever way you can. But I've had to do that so many times. I've definitely put my foot in my mouth plenty, but you just the older you get, the less you care. Like I never really cared what anybody thought of
when
me.
I get to be my grandmother's age, like I just can't wait. She's 95. And I mean, she's so sprightly and just says the most fucked up shit with like a smile on her face. And I'm just like, you know what? You earned this.
Yeah.
You're 95. You earned this. You can say whatever you want.
Yep. It's beautiful. It's like being a child again. It's like once you hit middle age, you start regressing back towards childhood where you can just like do whatever you want. You can shit on yourself again.
My mom's in that toddler stage. She's not shitting on herself like literally, but
figuratively.
Yeah. Like you can't call my house back home past 8 o'clock because there'll be a lot of wine involved, you know? I'm just like, what happened to you guys?
Dude. So how long have you been doing stand-up now? How long have you been working in comedy?
I was doing a lot more stand-up, I think, like in 2014, 2015. I was doing a lot more of it. And then I took time off to do writing stuff, and I was booking writing. I wrote on a show for Comedy Central, and I wrote for a couple award shows and things like that, and got more into the writing side of it and wrote some stuff for the roast. And just fell into that. And so I got kind of comfortable writing jokes for other people and not focusing as much on my own act.
Sometimes there's a weight off of you when you do that though.
Yeah.
Because you're writing and you're hoping it sticks, but if it doesn't, it's not on you.
Oh yeah, this isn't on me.
You're not the mascot of that terrible joke that didn't work.
No, it's for instance, there was this joke that I gave Brad Williams at a roast one time, and it got picked up by TMZ. For being so offensive. But like it was a roast joke, and Brad was, but it went over really well. It was done at the Improv. It went over really, really well.
Yeah.
And then like a lay person on the street repeated it like on national television.
Yeah.
And it was actually a college football team. They repeated it on TV, and they were like, No, we didn't make this really offensive thing up. We heard it at a comedy show. It's a joke. And then Brad was like, well, I can't take all the credit. Jen wrote it for me. And I was like, fuck. The one time where I was like, oh, I could have dealt without having that writing credit.
Yeah, shit. But still, I mean, it's cool to, like, I know a lot of people that take time off to just focus on shows. And like, I can't wait until because I'm actively pitching a couple shows right now. I can't wait until one sells and I can just take a fucking break from touring for a little bit. I just want to. I want to just be able to be home for like 4 months.
I just think we can tell just as great as stories from our own city.
I know.
From our own couch.
100%.
Like if we're just writing our own stories here, like we can get just as much accomplished as going out on the road. Like road comics that want to go out and travel and see the country. I've seen a lot of it covering sports for 8 years. Most of it's not great. Like talk to me when you go to Wichita, Kansas in the middle of winter.
Yeah, never gonna do that.
Or, you know, you go to Madison, Wisconsin, and they're like, let's go ice fishing. And you're like, let's not. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love playing in Madison, but that's why now, like...
Playing in Madison is fun. Like, going out and partying in Madison, great time.
Yes.
Going ice fishing in Madison.
Never done it, never will.
Like where they drag you out onto the ice, they drill a hole.
And you're in a fucking
and you're like
shanty or whatever they call them, like a little shack. Like it's a porta potty on the ice just waiting to fall through.
And it's me and like two giant basketball players from Wisconsin, from University of Wisconsin, and like my film crew.
Yeah.
You know, filming this whole thing. And I'm supposed to act like I'm having fun. Meanwhile, like I'm going into hypothermia.
Yeah. It's terrible. Yeah. I don't miss living in the Midwest, but like we were talking about before the podcast, like it is fun to tour to like Chicago, New York.
Oh yeah, big cities.
Big cities. And that's why for the last
places with running water.
4 or 5 years, that's all I do. I quit doing like the center of the country a while ago just because I just didn't find it beneficial for me.
No.
And it's not, and it's some people it's extremely beneficial. So it just depends.
I think it depends on the kind of comedy you do too. Like my stuff is very biting and sarcastic and snarky, which is just all really nice ways of saying I'm an asshole. So when I do like those like nicer, smaller towns, they're like, you're a bitch. And they don't, it's like they don't get that like, that mean comedy mentality.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. So what was the transition from working in sports into comedy like for you?
Well, I wanted to go into a field where women were more respected. So I went to stand up. It was hard. It really was, especially because, I mean, I was already saying things on the air when I worked in sports that would get me in so much trouble.
Right.
Like I got a talking to at least once a week by my producers. And then when I was working on this one show, they came in and they were like, so yeah, we're not doing any more comedy. Like it's just going to be straight up sports. I literally raised my hand in this meeting and I said, why am I here? Because I was never guys don't want hard-hitting sports journalism from women. They just don't. Like I've never played a sport. I was on a bowling scholarship in college. You know what I mean?
What the fuck? That's a thing?
Yes.
That's a thing?
Yeah, that's my role model. Take that shit to the bank. Marching band and bowling.
Oh, that's so hot.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I was a virgin until
dirtiest fingers in college.
Exactly.
You probably didn't do many HJs, huh? They were like, get your bowling fingers away from me.
I'm only using my mouth. Watch my next trick. Yeah, no, it was... I was a dork. I was a dork for the longest time. So, but the only reason I knew anything about sports was like trying to get in my dad's favor. Yeah. Where I was like, look, we can connect. We can talk. Like, look, I know the things that you know, learning sports for that. And also so that I could learn when to tell the marching band to play during football games. Those are the only reasons.
Those are great reasons.
I mean, sure.
I feel like that's why I got into sports too, is just so guys would like me. Because in the Midwest, that's what it was. That's what it was all about.
Exactly. Because like just the whole like girly girl stuff. And I'm not a guy's girl. Like I have plenty of girlfriends. I feel like when girls are like, I'm a guy's girl, I'm like, that just means the girls think you're a bitch. But I'm not that kind of guy's girl. I'm just a tomboy, you know, and there's like a very distinct difference.
We
like
are
tomboys just mean we like things that boys like. It doesn't mean that girls don't like us.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's a very fine line between tomboys and girls, guys, girls.
And that's what I've always said. Like as I age, I kind of lean into the like, the sexy tomboy vibe more and more just because like when I was younger I would try to do girly things with myself.
The hot volleyball player, that's kind of the vibe I get off of you.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
You're like, I could have been an Olympian volleyball player back in the day. Definitely played collegiately. Look at this great body. I look amazing in a bikini, but I'm also cool as fuck.
Exactly.
Like that's the vibe.
Drink beer.
You're on brand if that's what you're wondering.
Perfect. And so are you. We're killing the game. And when you got into comedy, like, what was your early material like? Because I didn't know you back when you first started.
God, my early material. I was going through a really crappy time right when I started doing comedy. So I actually had some really funny stuff. right when I started doing stand-up, I found out the guy that I was seeing was engaged.
Oh.
Like, I'd been seeing him for months and had no clue.
Whoa.
And so, like, that, I had some really good bits about that killed.
I'm not sure how you disguise something like that.
He was really good.
Wow.
It just showed me the level of sociopaths that I was dealing with in LA, because up until that point, I had been in a relationship with, like a long-term relationship with a Mennonite, which is basically Amish with technology.
Yeah.
And so it was like my first foray back into dating in 4 years.
Wow.
And I just didn't know how to be normal. You know, I was like, what the people, this thing where they tell you they want to hang out and then they never call you, or like they'll make plans and then not follow through with them.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. I just dating was so hard that, like, I think once my now husband asked me to marry him, I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Like,
yeah, you're like, I want to be off of this platform.
I can't. I can barely manage my Twitter and my Instagram. You want me to swipe on people and like see if they'll even write me back and like not be flaky or just try to fuck me? No,
yeah.
I can't do any of that. Dating is like was so hard.
I can't even imagine, because I've never had the luxury of being on these dating apps, but I have
me neither.
Friends that are on them, and I've played around on them a little bit just because I have like a girlfriend that'll be like, oh, I can't get any guys.
Have you ever pity swiped somebody?
Yeah.
Where you're like, she seems nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I bet he's funny.
Well, and I talk to like girls on my guy friends apps sometimes because they do everything so badly. Like even my guy friends that are pretty like charming are really bad at talking to girls on those apps.
What do you mean?
So
do they just dive in for
sometimes
like
I'll just grab, like, we'll be out for drinks and I'll be like, let me check your
let me make sure you're not being a scumbag.
Yeah, and it'll just be like just the way it's not one-liners. Like I'm not really friends with the type of guys that throw out one-liners anymore. Maybe if this was like 10 years ago, but it'll be like approaching by just trying to like set up dates like immediately, but like that's a waste of time for a guy and money. You know, that could be really expensive. So I was like, well, first of all, you need to like maybe set up like a call or just like figure out if you even fucking like how the person feels.
You have a screening process where everybody else is like, they're probably just looking to hook up. And you're like, no.
I'm like, if you want to meet somebody,
vet these people.
Yeah, fucking talk to them and see if they seem stupid in the first 5 minutes of a phone call. You're not going to want to go sit out at dinner with them for an hour and a half and pay for it.
I should have done that with more people now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I can't imagine being out in the dating world now. And me and my fiance went through a rough patch through our engagement. We've been in like a rough patch for a while, which is really weird because we've been together for 7 years. So it's weird to have our first rough patch happen while we're engaged. But I think it's just so much
It's because there's so many changes going on. And you're like, oh, this is going to be forever. Like, are you sure? Are we sure? Like, and then you'll just start noticing little quirks about them where you're like, oh, can I deal with that every single day?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or like, I don't know what
the excessive amount of body hair that's around my bathroom when Cody comes to town is insane. Like, luckily, like I have a really weird scenario where Cody's gone 8 months out of the year, you know, because he plays baseball. So I mean, I ship him off in February and I get him again like in September, October, you know? And that's if he doesn't like go to some foreign country to go play baseball in the winter just for shits and giggles and extra money, you know?
Yeah.
Last year he went to Mexico and he was like trying to bring home all these puppies from Mexico. I was like, no, you're not. No.
It's kind of a fun situation. Like I would have a heyday with that just because I enjoy like being. I'm
an individual and I like being, and I do it fine.
Yeah.
He is an emotional disaster.
Really? Yeah. That's interesting.
I function very well on my own. I'm very independent. And he's more like, oh my God, I need you here. And I'm like, I can't. No, I'm not flying to Reno to come see you.
Yeah, not Reno. I mean, maybe Australia.
No, Reno's where you go when you want to see white people who've just lost everything. Like that's Reno. But yeah, so it's a different scenario, and it's not. I don't feel like it's weird, and you'll notice too, like after you get married, everyone goes, "So how's married life?"
And you're like, same.
No, not even same. No one tells you the first year of married life is the hardest. year that you will ever go through with a person.
Yay!
No, I'm serious.
Wait.
Just like buckle up. You know what I mean? Buckle up, buy each other helmets, buy some Nerf guns or something to like take your aggression out on each other, because you will want to kill the person multiple times. You will threaten divorce multiple times. And I'm not the only person that's had this like feeling, but no one talks about it.
Nobody talks about it. Thank you. That's why I'm writing my book right now, The Diary of a Bad Fiance.
Yeah, no one talks about it.
It's like, I never thought that I would hate being engaged so much. It's nothing to do with Justin. Like, he's fantastic. But like, and I don't know if this happened for you, but like, as soon as I got a ring, men from my past started coming out of the woodwork. Not like they were trying to date me or steal me away or anything, but just like showing back up in my life a little bit stronger. And I was just learning a lot about myself. And yeah, I don't know. It was just a very interesting time.
It feels like a bad rom-com.
It does. And I'm excited to write about it. And it's going to be a fine line between writing things that are super true and like worrying if somebody's going to get butthurt about them.
Oh, I used to have a blog like that and I got in so much trouble.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I would write things, but the trick is never mention anybody by their name. I would give them all like nicknames. They all had nicknames, like like Mr. Big, like that type stuff.
Yeah.
So I would give everybody nicknames, and people really liked it because I would be super honest about some of the shit that I was dealing with, where like I had an ex come into my life that I was like head over heels obsessed with, right? And he asked me out for dinner on my birthday. And like I had just been recently single. So I was like, oh my God, yes, we're going to reconnect. It's going to be magical. It's going to be great. He takes me out to dinner to the sushi place. And he's like, hey, so I need your help on something. He's like, I really like this girl.
And you're like, no.
And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, this is my birthday dinner that I was assuming was going to be like, our big night to get back together. So I wrote about this. And basically the rest of the night, it was him like picking my brain to see how we could get this girl to date him.
Fuck. That's a slap in the face.
Oh my God. I was like, there is not enough sake in the world to make this conversation not sting.
Oh man.
Yeah. But so I would write about stuff like that.
Yeah.
I only got called out on it one time because a guy's friend read it. And was like, hey, this sounds really familiar about like maybe you. And he's like, well, I didn't know you had a blog. And so, I mean, after then, I don't know. It's the same way I feel about like guys that won't let you tell jokes about them. Like, don't shut me down creatively because you can't handle your own shit.
Exactly. And this is the first time that Justin's always been open with me, like talking about, because earlier in our relationship, I talked about my ex because that was kind of what spurred me to get into stand-up. And then I would talk about little things here and there. And when we got engaged, I talk about some stuff. But now that I'm opening up with this like book about like being a terrible fiance, he's really nervous about it. Like every day he asks me about it. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell, you're not doing anything wrong. It's all
this
me.
isn't about you. This is about my own shit and my own neuroses. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I'm the bad fiance, not you.
No.
I'm not diarying about somebody else sucking. It's about me.
Oh yeah. And there are days when I look at Cody and I see how much he loves me and I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Thank you. I think that all the fucking time.
I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I am insane. Why are you still here? And sometimes I feel like I go out of my way just to fuck with him and see if he'll stick around through the hard stuff.
Oh my God. Aren't we terrible? Women are terrible.
Where I'm like, I don't play games, but I will test the shit out of somebody.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh God. We have so many things in common. It's fucking unreal.
It's self-sabotaging. It is. When things are going too well, I always say, when my life is going too well, I'm the girl that likes to run through the fireworks factory with lit matches. And I'm like, let's see what happens.
Exactly. That's how I felt since I got engaged.
Yeah.
Like I was really happy the first month, and then I was like, I gotta ruin this.
How do I fuck this up?
I gotta fuck this up somehow. And I tried, but didn't work. So no. I guess he really wants to.
It's real love.
It's true love.
That's when you know you found the right person. Is when they can look at you in your hottest of messes of states, and they're just like, yeah. I still would.
Yeah.
I would still choose you every single day.
Yeah, it's so strange.
And you're like, what happened to you in your life? that's the way you feel, but okay.
So what was because I don't know much about your background. Like, what was growing up life like for you? And were there times growing up that you thought you would never perhaps amount to anything, or like big fuck ups that you had?
Oh my God, have you met my parents? Yes. I was always the overachiever, and it was still never good enough. Like, if they told me we needed a 5-page paper, I would write you 10 just to prove I could do it. You know, like I was always the overachiever. And as a result, my sister was like the slack ass. She's like, oh, you want 5 pages? I'll give you 4.5 with really wide margins and double spaced, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was always I feel like being the first child, there's way more pressure on you because the parents don't want to fuck it up, you know? And I was also labeled gifted at like a really young age. Like I think I was in 2nd or 3rd grade when they tested me and they were like, yeah, she's really smart. But I also just wouldn't apply myself until like if it was something that I didn't care about, like there was no getting me to care about it. Like I was very driven to like the arts and things like that. But I mean, I also had like really high anxiety as a child. And I think that's also because of my parents and just like the way they were. And I never really noticed it as a kid because they would always just be like, yeah, you're just a worrywart. And then now that I listen to my parents talk, I'm like, yeah, fuck you guys. I inherited it from you. Like I got sent home from school one day. This is a true story. I got sent home from school one day in 1st grade because Hurricane Andrew was coming for Florida. And so they were going to send us home early to get home before the storm hit. And I basically came to school and I was like, well, it's been fun, guys. And I basically told the entire class they were going to die. And they called my mom and they were like, Mrs. Sterger, you have to come pick up your daughter. She's alarmed. Like there's children bawling their eyes out. She's just alarming children.
Oh my God.
Like, that's just the kind of shit I would do. And like, I didn't know any better, you know?
Yeah. I get that too, because my mom like tried to do this weird thing with me when I was little and be too honest with me about things. So she told me about Santa not being real when I was in kindergarten and told me not to tell other kids.
Ooh.
She was like, Saint Nicholas was a saint and he gave things to kids. He was a good man, but what Santa Claus is just a fake thing. And of course I told every kid in school.
Yeah.
I went to class like the next day and was like, Santa's not real. And kids were freaking out. And like my mom, I was like, in hindsight, I was like, Mom, why did you tell me that? Yeah. Like, I don't have the capacity at being 5 to like
keep secrets.
Yeah, like no kid does. Like you can't be like, hey, just be an adult about this to a fucking 5-year-old.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never thought I'd be a good role model ever. I mean, and it's funny because now I get letters from people that like. I actually, believe it or not, they allow me to go into college classrooms and speak to them about just my time in sports and like how, especially now with the Me Too movement going on and, you know, everything it hasn't really hit sports, but it did hit sports. It hit sports with me like a decade ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And no one did shit about it, you know, because people weren't ready to hear that their heroes and their sports legends were pieces of shit back then. You know? People weren't willing to hear that there was this ugly side of sports and sports media stuff. So now it's kind of cathartic for me to be able to go and teach these classes for like these, you know, college university students in like sports media and communications classes where like I'll just go in and I'm like, hey, I literally can talk to you guys about anything because I have nothing to lose.
Yeah, because you're not even in that anymore.
I'm not really in that organization, you know, like in that type of field anymore, but I can still speak on it. And it's crazy how many of them reach out to me afterwards and they're like, I still really want to get into this. How do I go about getting into it? And I'm like, I'm not the right person to ask that kind of question to because every major opportunity that I've had literally has been by the grace of God and just stumbling into some shit. I don't feel like, I mean, granted, there was a lot of hard work behind the scenes and a lot of it was opportunity meets preparation, you know, where I was just ready for something to happen, but then it happened and I was able to run with it, you know?
Did you go to school for journalism or how did you end up in that space?
I went to school for criminology and psychology double major. I wanted to be a lawyer. And then my college sweetheart was a sports management major. And so I would do a lot of his homework because we could have sex if he was done with his homework.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God, like I love you so much. I'm going to do this homework for you. So like one of his things that he had to do was for his finals, he had to write out a football playbook. So I spent like 2 weeks playing Madden and like NCAA tournament. And I was like writing out a football playbook, having no fucking knowledge, other than like my band nerd knowledge and just lay fan, knowledge. And I don't know. Now he's selling wine in Florida and I worked in sports for 8 years. So like everything works out.
So crazy.
But like it's just one of those things where people would come and ask me like, how do I get into sports? And I'm like, well, don't show up in a bikini at a stadium and get on television like I did. Like I said, it's stumbling into shit and just running with it.
Yeah, exactly. Did you think that you would ever end up in something comedic? Like, were you kind of entertaining when you were younger too?
Oh my God, yeah. I was always getting in trouble.
Yeah.
I was always getting in trouble.
Let's talk about that.
The stuff that I would say, I'd be like, Mom, can we get cell phones? And she's like, you can get cell phones when you have a job. And I'm like, I can't even leave the front lawn. How the fuck am I supposed to get a job? Like that's how overprotective my parents were,
Yeah.
Or like I would just constantly call my parents on their bullshit, and to the point where like they couldn't even be mad at me because they were too busy laughing at what I said to them. They always said I was like their little adult.
Yeah.
I always wanted to like eavesdrop on like the adult conversations and like wanted to weigh in. So I feel like my childhood was just not as like imaginary and like playful as most kids' childhoods were, because I was just so like keyed in on
like an old soul.
Yeah.
I think I was like that too. There's so many things you keep saying that like make me think of my childhood, which is really funny. But
where they're like, don't you want to go play? And I'm like, no.
I would do a combination of the two, but I've always really liked
if I played,
old
I was the leader. You know what I mean? Like I was the one in charge. I'm like always wanted to be around like the old cool people.
Yeah. I had like an elder in my church for the longest time that I was like besties with, and we would hang out for like 2 hours after church and just talk.
Oh yeah.
And I was like super into it.
Days of Our Lives.
I was like 10 years old, and I was like, yeah, this guy, I fucking watched Matlock. Like Matlock was my favorite show when I was like 7.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I think I watched that same hour of programming. It's Days of Our Lives is straight into Matlock.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny. I forgot about that show until like just now. But
everyone did.
When you went to college, did you experience weird shit in the sports arena besides what happened 10 years ago? Because I know what that is, obviously. Like misogyny or anything like that.
I mean, come on, there's always going to be that. I think it's that world just kind of breeds it. I see it with my own husband, not like the misogyny part, but like it's almost like he is stunted from having played a child's game for so long. Like he's been a pro athlete for 10 years.
Right.
And it's like when they've been on the road and they're used to people like making their travel arrangements for him and like handling all of his day-to-day bullshit. And he has agents do this for him and, team managers do this for them. Like I just realized what learned helplessness he has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's like this weird entitlement that it doesn't even register that he has.
Yeah.
Where what I've been doing is I like wake up and I give him a list of shit to do that he can do from wherever he is. I'm like, I need you to call car insurance companies and I need you to talk to them and I need you to find the best plan for us because I'm not doing it. Like it's stuff that like is all of the mundane things of being an adult. I'm starting to make him take over now because I'm like, I cannot adult by myself. Like I need you to adult with me. And I just think that it's kind of that it's ingrained in that culture of just they're playing a game for a living,
Yeah, it's super interesting. And so many people in sports get into it so young and have such massive, it's not even necessarily success because it depends on how you define success, I suppose. But they just have dump trucks of money at such young ages and don't understand how to manage any of it. No,
a lot of them are, broke ass poor within a few years of not being in it because they just go out and spend it all, And there's just there's no plan, or there's people like Cody that just never make any. I love him dearly. But yeah, it was never about how much money he was going to make. So yeah, it's sports has just always been weird stories, I always found ways to fall back in love with sports, no matter how sports treated me, you know, because I legitimately did love it a lot.
Sure.
Like there's just something about being at like a major sporting event, like, or one where like it's just such a good game, you know, where I could find a reason to like cheer for a sporting event that I had no stake in.
Yeah.
Just because I got like involved in the storylines of it. So I realized like I wasn't even cheering for like the sporting aspect of it. I was rooting for the story.
That's how I feel about the World Cup right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not very into, I guess I have to call it football because it's the only sport, or we're the only country that doesn't call it football, but soccer. I've never been really into it. I don't have any like affinity for a certain team necessarily.
Yeah, because you're an American.
Exactly. I'm a true American. I only watch sports we play here.
Yeah, we only care about soccer every 4 years.
Exactly. But I have friends from all over the world, and so the World Cup is such a big deal to them.
Yeah.
And so people are calling me, are like, are you going to get up at 6 a.m. and watch the World Cup? I'm like, fuck no. I'm fucking not going to. But why don't you text me and let me know how it goes? And let me know if you want me to get a drink with you this afternoon when I'm more of a human.
Yeah, you're like, can we watch the replay of it later at the bar? Will that be showing? You know, I got a glimpse of that with... Cody played in this thing called the WBC, which is the World Baseball Classic. It's kind of like the World Cup, but for baseball.
Right.
And he played in it last year. And it was fascinating because it was my first time ever having traveled abroad. So like,
where was it?
It was, his first round was in Korea, South Korea.
Oh.
And then his second round was in Japan.
Those are two places I've always wanted to go.
I actually liked South Korea more.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. I just felt like it was, it kind of reminded me of Chicago. Like if Tokyo is New York City, Seoul was more like Chicago and like it was more manageable.
Interesting. Okay.
For me
like, and
anyway.
Like cleaner?
And they're just more willing to like speak the language to you. There's just a little more, I don't know. It's a softer version.
Tokyo to me feels like it would be so
it's very chaotic. Very in your face and very chaotic. But I did figure out the subway system and I was super proud of myself. That said, that was also a very traumatic afternoon of figuring out the subway system. Like once I got it, I was fine. But like until then, I was like, holy shit, I'm in a country I don't know. And I don't know how to get back to my hotel. Because I don't even know the addresses here. Like I don't understand any of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was interesting though because they felt the same way. You know, like some countries feel the same way about baseball. It's just not important to them. You know.
Exactly.
So it was just really cool seeing all the different countries coming together and competing against each other. And you know, Cody was actually playing for Team Israel. And
how did that happen?
Because he's a Jew.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
That's literally the only prerequisite you had to have is one of your grandparents has to be Jewish.
Okay.
And his mom is a full Jew. I can vouch for that. So like he got to do that and it was fun getting to experience that whole thing with him. You know? And
that's your only time abroad, huh?
We went to Israel as well, but like as part of the...
Is that how you closed out the Jew thing, though? You had to go to Israel.
It was how we opened it, actually. They were like, if you're going to play for our country, at least come over here and experience it. So we got a free trip out of it. And like we saw Israel the only way you should see Israel, which is everything's paid for. But it was really cool where I was like, wow, there's just so much going on. And like understanding the political aspects of what was going on while we were there was a lot to like
I'm sure
digest too, because you're like, this is such a lovely country, but there's just so much to unpack.
There's so many things we're unaware of. Like my friend, my best friend from college, I lived with her when we were both deciding what we wanted to be when we grew up.
How's that going for you?
Going good. I'm gonna have it I'm gonna have it figured out in like 10 years.
Are you gonna be a marine biologist like I was too?
I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a brain surgeon.
Oh. I wanted to be an orthodontist. I felt like there was less pressure, but I was still a doctor.
You were on the inside of the head, and I would have been on the other inside of the head. That's why I'm not a brain surgeon, because I called it the inside of the head. But yeah, she and I lived together when we were 21, and that's when I decided I wanted to move to Chicago and do comedy. Or no, we hadn't even turned 21 yet. And then she decided she wanted to do DC and do politics. And she went down the politic rabbit hole pretty hard, and she studied abroad in Europe. And she would call me like every couple of days and be like, this thing and this thing and this thing. And I was like, I have to just step away from everything you're doing because it's Twitter too fucking much. Like I wish I knew more about politics, but like just knowing things that are happening in our country is not.
That is how I feel every morning when I open Twitter now is I'm like, how quickly can I dive into a deep depression?
I know.
And I open Twitter and I'm like, I'm done.
And that's why
I'm there.
People will ask me like, you know, when I travel and stuff, or people that know I do stand up but have never seen me perform, they're like, oh, what do you talk about? Do you talk about politics? And I was like, fuck no. I don't even know what's going on half the time.
Like, I'd rather not. I'd rather be blissfully unaware if we're about to be
And I don't
up.
talk about pop culture either, unless I have to because it's a topical show. But like, I absolutely talk about my own life because I can't fuck that up. I can't be misinformed about something I actually did.
That you actually lived through.
Yeah, because I'm just probably misinformed every day about everything that's going on. I try to listen to TED Talks, so I just know how to do like actionable shit.
They make me feel smarter. Yeah, exactly. How to fix your life.
Yeah. We watched one the other day. Me and Justin got up and I had downloaded this meditation app because I was auditioning to be on the app.
Oh my God. You and I are like, we're literally sisters right now.
So I was we were trying to meditate and, you know, we're meditating and the fucking guys outside mowing the lawn.
Like half opening your eye and you're like, is this bullshit?
Yeah, my phone rings halfway in the middle of it. I had to take a call. Like, it's just like not a fucking thing that we were good at doing. But we did it. And then afterwards we were like, now what? That was 5 minutes. Okay. And then we were like, let's watch an inspiring TED Talk. And we watched a TED Talk about like focusing on one thing. And it was this really old guy doing it. And I was like, of course you know how to focus on one thing. Like your life is at a point where you have no distraction.
Yeah.
I feel like I have so much distraction all the time. Like focusing on one thing is impossible.
All do.
Yeah. Like what would you say you would want to do ideally in comedy in the future? Or
create my own show.
You do?
Yeah. That's and I like acting. Like so much of my comedy is physical that I'm good at, but I don't do nearly enough of it on stage. Like I rely on my jokes on stage and less on my acting. And I forget that like it's a performance. It's not just me reading jokes that I know are funny.
Yeah.
Like I have to perform it too the right way or it's not going to work.
Exactly.
You know? Whereas when I'm just doing stuff, like for one of the shows I work on is this movie trivia show and they're always like, her interviews are so funny. And some of it's just a look, you know, like I've perfected like just being able to look at someone and like everything that you need to know about what I'm thinking in that moment comes in that look. And I don't know if it's because I've just been getting less Botox lately or what, but like everyone knows. And so now people are like starting to send me gifs of myself where like it's literally just looks. And so now I'm using gifs of myself to respond to people when I'm just like fed up with people.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you as that, creating my own content. And that's why I'm shopping so many series right now because I'm like, I just want to make something I care about. Like
we all are excited when we book gigs, but we aren't nearly as excited if it's something that we're not like invested in. Like, making $5,000 on a commercial would be great right now or on a buyout or whatever. But we're not going to be nearly as happy about that as we are as if we get like some dumb funding for a web series that we really, really were invested in. Yeah. Is that crazy?
I know. But I think not everybody operates that way. Some people would rather just have...
I'm not happy. Like and Cody gets mad at me all the time. He's like, you don't celebrate the little victories that you have. And I'm like, yeah, because those little victories, they just pay my bills. They're not what I'm passionate about.
Exactly.
They're just like little wins. I'm talking about winning like the big thing.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly. And there's so many things that I've been like kind of opening my mind to lately because I did for my third year in a row, I went to St. Croix and did like a comedy show. Like I did a bigger tour a couple of years ago and I realized on an island you don't need to do a tour. You don't need multiple nights in an island. Like you just need one big night where people come out. So my last trip I did that. And I did kind of like a one-woman show situation where I obviously I didn't have a host or an opener or anything because it's an island. There's no comics there. So I just
You mean some boat captain wasn't like, I got 5 solid minutes. Can I work in front of you? And
I'm sure that's going to happen next time for sure. But I did my 45 minutes and then I was like, oh, we need to do more with this time. And so I just kind of opened it up to the audience to just like talk with me about shit. And it was really fucking fun. And they got super into it. And that was like an extra like 30 minutes. And it was just cool. But I've been wanting to go on to like a tour with somebody where it's like a dual podcasting and then like, you know, and then like maybe some sort of like interesting panel and then stand up or something. There's just so many different ways to go about doing stand up now that are just a little bit different. I think people are opening their mind to that. But like creating,
people are dancing, they're roasting. It's like, what other hobbies and talents do comedians have? Because we're so multifaceted, most of us, you know, and most we are all different.
Most of us wanted to do something else before we got into comedy, and we weren't good enough at that other thing. Like I thought I wanted to be a fly girl. I was like in hardcore into stand-up hip hop dancing for a long time. Yeah, I was talking about this last night
with some cardboard down that we found in the alley. You could like throw down.
I mean, probably now again a little bit because I'm back into like yoga and martial arts, and so I can do a lot of the breakdancing moves now that I couldn't really get back in the day. But I was talking to Brian Callen about this last night. I was like, I used to study under this guy named Pizzazz in Minneapolis, and he was like, "What?" That
sounds like a character Brian Callen would do.
I know, and he was like, "What?" And I was like, there's this guy named Pizzazz, and he did his dances in a dark room on puzzle pieces, and that's who I studied under for a while. And I really wanted to be like Pizzazz, man. He had all the right moves.
God, that Pizzazz.
There was Pizzazz, Ivy, and Worm. And those were the three that I studied under.
Are you sure you weren't studying to be in porn?
Or like a superhero that's like a secret superhero society.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, it was an interesting time in my life. But
would you say Pizzazz was your role model?
Pizzazz was my role model for that time.
I met my role model, like someone that I thought early in my career was going to be like my career trajectory. Like I thought she was funny. I thought she was charismatic. She was a television host. I'm not going to say her name because what she did was disgusting. But I ended up meeting her, which is proof that you should never meet your heroes. I went out to a dinner that she happened to be at, and we were all sitting at the table and stuff. And I watched her like excuse herself to like go do drugs and bang her boyfriend in the bathroom. And I was like, oh,
really? You can't sit for an hour?
Yeah, really? An hour and a half dinner at like a really nice restaurant and you can't keep your shit together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed.
Yeah, that sucks.
Because I was like, I looked up to you for a long time. Like you were the epitome of like sexy and cool and funny. And now you're just a train wreck, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that sucks.
The only other person I feel like that I looked up to as like a role model would have been like, I think we all looked up to Britney Spears at some point or another.
That's what made me do crunches my entire childhood.
Where you're like, I could do that. Feasibly, I could look like that. And like that's what she would say is, I just did this many crunches every day. And you're like, no, bitch, there was a lot of other things going on.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever cheered harder for someone to have a comeback than I was cheering for Britney in 2008. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's where I feel like I'm at in my own life is I feel like I'm Britney Spears in like late 2008.
Except you didn't shave your head, thank God.
No, but I did get a really bad haircut recently. So I feel like that's pretty comparable. But yeah, I definitely feel like I'm in the Britney stage of my career where like I'm reinventing myself after having taken a hiatus and like hoping like my next VMA return is not a complete and utter disaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think taking breaks to reinvent yourself is totally fine. Like I was telling you before, but I took like a 6-month.
Everyone talks so much shit about self-care when it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. You have
to take care of yourself mentally, especially in this town, because no one else is going to.
Yeah, it was like 2.5, 3 years ago where I did the same thing. Like 6 months of actively not trying to book shows just to like get my shit back together because you just hit a point sometimes where you're just fed up with the entertainment industry.
And it's not just the entertainment industry. It's like the state of our country right now and like just even getting on social media is so triggering, especially when all the Me Too stuff was really happening, you know, like last fall. I just remember even when the you know, like the election took place, I remember breaking down in the gym crying that night. And Cody was like, what's wrong? And I said, this is going to make everything that happened to me normal. Because it was after all of the Access Hollywood tapes and shit had come out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, if we can elect a monster like that and like excuse their behavior for the good of our country, like it just makes like, what am I doing? Like, why am I still here?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it's been I think just one of those things where, like I was telling you earlier, I haven't felt funny because I haven't felt like there was a lot of funny things going on, you know, that weren't tearing down other people and that weren't, you know, I've just really been kind of honing my voice again and like not making it so angry and trying to be more of a state of like making other people happy. Yeah. You know, without having to tear other people down.
And that's the thing is like, that's what I've been finding too, especially in this time, because it's like people
are so used to everybody being so mean that I feel like we have to find a way to be
to connect.
Yeah. Like to be a voice of like, it's going to be okay. I know this is a shit show. We're all in this shit show together. Like, let's just get through it.
Yeah. You know? And that, I think that's the ultimate reason why people like us got into comedy in the first place. Because we actually
we were escaping our own shit.
We're escaping our own shit. And also like really actually like people. Like in general, I want to like people and I want to root for people. And I don't have enemies. I don't want to have enemies.
Neither do I. I get so upset when people don't like me. And then I'm still coming to grips with like, it's a part of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because people are like, when I do animal rescue work, people are like, well, that dog's dog selective. I'm like, I get it. I don't fucking like every person that I meet. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if that dog doesn't like this person or this dog, I get it. I don't like every person that I meet, but I work with them, you know? So yeah, it's been really just trying to find a way to use my powers for good.
Yeah.
You know,
I think if everybody could do that a little bit, or at least try for that a little bit, we'd probably be okay.
If we could all hone our inner pizzazz, the world would just be a better place.
I fucking wonder if Pizzazz is still like alive, man.
Watch him hit you up after this.
He danced so hard. I can't believe that his heart would last. Like that man was insane.
Do you have pictures?
I could probably find pictures. I still talk to my first dance instructor in Minneapolis, Andy Worm, and he came to when I was still single, he came with me to my cousin's wedding in Minneapolis, and we danced so fucking hard at that place. I really wanted to be a pro dancer so bad, but I just wasn't good enough, and I knew it. Like I was just medium. Yeah, you know. And I like when I first moved to LA, I went to Millennium Dance Studio, and I was like,
oh my God,
I was like, I'm going to take some dance classes again and get back into this. And
that's the way I feel about singing. I'm like, yeah, I'm good as a novice, but like I was never going to be on American Idol.
Exactly. No, and there's like 8-year-olds that are just fucking schooling you. And I'm like,
yeah, no.
I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do Muay Thai because nobody's judging me on how good I'm doing at hitting pads.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're just hitting pads. You don't fight other people, right?
No, I do Dutch drills. Okay. Which it's not sparring. It's like the in between. So it's not like you actually attack people's heads. Yeah.
I was doing Muay Thai stuff too. It really kind of helped me find my center, and it was like a good place to like get out feelings. You know what I mean? Before I was willing to like talk about them and like be vulnerable, I feel like I used Muay Thai to really like kind of open that part of me up. And it got to the point though where like you get good at it enough where they're like, I think you should fight Yasmina. And I'm like, no,
bitch. No.
I'm like, Yasmina shaved half her head. Do you think I want any part of that? Like, don't fight with girls who have daddy issues or shave their heads. Yeah. Because the overlap on that Venn diagram is usually pretty solid. Yeah. You know?
Well, and some people get into fighting for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. You know, and they just actually want to like damage somebody.
Oh, yeah.
But at least at my gym, it's not like that. Like everybody's like, it's just not that mentality. Thank God. It's not, you know, a lot of pro fighters. There's a couple, but like whatever.
Because your face is way too pretty to do that.
Well, and I just
have a good nose.
I don't want to break my nose.
Yeah.
Then you just can't breathe right.
No. Forever. I'm still paying for that. took a dodgeball to the face in 8th grade, and I haven't been the same since.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit is real.
And my parents didn't let me fix it for like 10 years.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So it's like
they were dicks about it. Yeah. They were like, it's fine. It looks fine. I'm like, there's a huge bump and it's halfway crooked. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like I already had like the big tip going on, you know? Uh-huh. So I was like, how much uglier can my face get? I'm going through braces. Like I have like naturally curly bangs in Florida. Like
I loved that phase. No. Oh, the braces phase, man. Where I remember looking in the mirror so many mornings and being like, I'd be so cute if it wasn't for these.
Oh, yeah, no. I could find something new every morning. I still think I'm that way.
No, absolutely not.
In my head, I am.
Fucking perfect. You're perfect. Well, I think we have to wrap this up, but let's definitely keep talking outside of the podcast studio because I fucking love you. And we are like the same person.
We're tomboys. We're not guys, girls. We're tomboys.
Yep, and I like wearing baseball caps too. I have a whole slew of them.
Oh, that's just because I didn't do my hair.
I have a whole slew of them from Gorin Brothers that I usually wear here. Do you have Gorin Brothers hats?
No.
I need to get them to sponsor this podcast. I wear their hats all the fucking time, but they're the ones with like the pecker on them that just say like pecker and it's a woodpecker or
perfect.
Cock. And
yes. I know.
It's a rooster.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like trucker hats and like anything that's adjustable because some days my head's bigger than others.
What is with that? Mine too.
I think it's my hair. I don't know. I think it's my hair, but
it's the secrets. It depends on how many secrets you're holding in.
Yeah, or bullshit. Just other people's bullshit. It's crammed in my head.
Actually expands your head. But Jen, where can everybody find you?
Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Jennifer Sterger. Doing some comedy shows, obviously. I don't know. When is this going to air?
This will come out not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday.
Oh, well, fuck you. My show's tomorrow. So just keep an eye out for like shows because a lot of the shows I do are for my nonprofit. I work for a nonprofit called Care Rescue LA. So we rescue homeless animals and abandoned animals in Southern California. So I do all of that stuff. And just remind myself I'm not a terrible person. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully I'll be on TV a lot more soon.
Yeah, she's amazing. Hopefully we both will. Hopefully we both sell our shows like by the end of this year and then we can just fucking rock it out. I'm going to
put that out there in the universe.
I'm going to put that juju out there. When you put the juju out there, I think things happen.
Agreed.
And you can find me at NPH Comedy, the podcast at Future Role Model, the comedy studio at Comedy Pop-Up or CPU Podcasts. And when the day that this comes out will be my last day performing in New York City before I head to Montreal the next day to just drink my face off for 5 days at Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. So on the day that this comes out, come and see me in New York at Greenwich Village Comedy Club at 8:30. And Future Role Model out. I will see you next Tuesday.